To understand what the Virginia Plan is, first we must look at the author of the plan, James Madison. James Madison was one of the founding fathers of the United States. He lived from 1751 to 1836. He was one of the most prominent political figures of his time, known today as the father of the Constitution, and became the 4th president of the United States. James Madison was born in Port Conway, Virginia, and raised on his family's plantation, Montpelier, in Orange County. Madison attended college at the College of New Jersey, now called Princeton, and went on to become a colonel in the Orange County Militia. He eventually gave up his military career to represent Orange County at the Virginia Constitutional Convention in 1776. Madison met Thomas Jefferson while serving in the Virginia legislature. He was a strong proponent for religious freedom. Madison went on to become a Virginia delegate at the Continental Congress. He left the Congress to serve in the Virginia legislature for a short time, but was called back to create a new constitution. After declaring independence from Britain, the colonies ratified the Articles of Confederation at their first constitution. Madison felt that the Articles did not create a strong enough federal government to support the new country economically. The Articles of Confederation gave the federal government no ability to create taxes or even raise an army in case of war. In 1787, the state delegates met in the Constitutional Convention where Madison presented his idea for more effective federal government, called the Virginia Plan.
The Virginia Plan was a product of Madison's extensive research into the previous forms of American government and famous Republican governments throughout history. The Articles of Confederation had created a very weak federal government, but Madison believed that a stronger government was best for this new, diverse country. Madison wrote a series of 15 proposals that became the Virginia Plan. The Virginia Plan was presented to the Constitutional Convention in May 1787 by Edmund Randolph, the governor of Virginia. The Virginia Plan proposed that the Articles of Confederation had failed and the country needed a new constitution. The plan proposed a federal government that was split into 3 branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. The plan also proposed that each of these branches would have the ability to check and balance the other branches to prevent abuses of power. The plan gave the federal government the ability to make and enforce laws as well as collect taxes. One major feature of the Virginia Plan was a bicameral legislature, which split the legislative body, or Congress, into 2 houses. In both houses of Congress, each state was represented based on their population size and had the ability to veto state laws. One house was made up of leaders elected by the people to serve for 3 years, while the other house was made up of members chosen by their state legislatures to serve for 7 years. The Virginia Plan was a bold proposal for the time and divided the representatives at the convention. The states with larger populations supported the plan, but many of the smaller states wanted equal representation. Another proposition, called the New Jersey Plan, proposed a legislature that gave each state equal representation. Eventually, these 2 plans were melded together to create a bicameral legislature, which had a lower house where the number of representatives depended on the population of the state. The higher house, on the other hand, gave each state 2 representatives.
The plan was the most important and revolutionary proposal at the Constitutional Convention of 1787 and changed the United States governmental system forever. At a time when most of the delegates believed that a weak central government was the best system for the country, Madison's plan flew in the face of conventional thinking. The Virginia Plan, as it was first introduced, was considered radical, even though many other delegates agreed that the Articles of Confederation had failed. Although it went through many changes before the convention ratified the current Constitution, the same basic ideas and elements that were proposed in the Virginia Plan can be plainly seen. The Constitution embraced the idea of a federal government that was split into 3 branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. This federal government would work alongside state governments to run the country. The Constitution also allowed the new Congress to pass laws and taxes to help raise revenue and govern the country effectively. The idea of a bicameral legislature also made it into the Constitution, albeit in a different form than Madison's proposal. The Great Compromise between the Virginia and New Jersey plans created the current form of Congress and allowed each side to form a representation that they wanted. The Constitution adopted the idea of a checks and balances system. Even the idea of a Supreme Court and judicial appointments for life were introduced in the Virginia Plan. The Virginia Plan also introduced the idea that a new constitution could be amended if the need arose. Madison would go on to become the reluctant writer of the Bill of Rights, which amended the Constitution to protect individual freedoms. Without the ideas that Madison had proposed in the Virginia Plan, the United States would never have had a strong, structured central government that has lasted for centuries.